bell beneath the lanterns. The bell rang at 13 minutes past midnight. Meng Shu was alone in the herbery when he heard it. He had been coaxing a hollow bramble back into its trellis, which was delicate work even when the plant was calm, and he had pressed his brush against his palm to hold a kindling seal ready, in case the vine turned foul-tempered. A clay dish of moon orchid cuttings balanced against his hip. The first note of the bell made the glasshouse panes hum. The second sent a wheel of night herons, scattering from the eaves above the dormitories. At the third, the bramble went still all at once, every leaf turning toward the mountain. Meng Shu let the kindling seal die on his brush. The sound was too deep for the watch gong, and too near for the village below the pass. It seemed to rise out of the mountain itself, an iron voice tolling somewhere beneath the terraces. Then, from among the dark rows of orchids, a boy's voice said his name. Shu. He stopped breathing. The voice was young, quick, forever on the edge of a laugh. Shu, wait. The dish slipped from his hand and broke. He knew that voice. He had last heard it in the Hall of Lanterns, the morning after the fracture, though the mouth that should have spoken it had gone still.
Bolin?
Meng Shu whispered. The herbery door banged open. Elder Nara stood in the frame in a quilted robe and one slipper, her gray hair loose down her back, a brush already glowing white in her fist.
Shu, are you hurt?
The voice among the orchids vanished. Meng Shu stared down the rows. Leaves rustled. The soil smelled rich and ordinary. Nothing moved except the hollow bramble, which had begun curiously investigating his dropped sash.
No,
he said, though his heart was hammering.
I'm all right.
Elder Nara looked toward the terraces above. Lamp after lamp was kindling in the dormitory windows.
That bell?
She murmured.
I haven't heard it since I was a girl.
Meng Shu turned to her.
What bell?
But Elder Nara only said,
We had better wake the Elder Fen.
By the first meal, everyone at Nine Lantern Academy had a different explanation. A white watchboy said the mountain must be settling after last year's landslide. A first lantern girl insisted the sound had come from the sky itself, an omen of storms to come. The ink-stained scholar, a ghost who had haunted the library stacks for longer than anyone could say, recalled a bell rung for a magistrate's funeral some 3 centuries past, though he admitted he had spent most of that particular evening failing an examination he refused to name. The academy was still being rebuilt after the Fracture War. Scaffolding wrapped the eastern spires. New timber gleamed pale against beams scorched black by fire seals. Half the corridor lanterns burned the wrong color, and the covered walkways sometimes led students to terraces that no longer existed. Everyone had grown used to strange sounds since the rebuilding began, but not to that one. At the high table, Elder Fen sat very straight, her hands folded beside an untouched bowl of tea. Master IP, who stood scarcely taller than the lectern he worked behind, was turning the pages of an enormous ledger bound in lacquered wood. Elder Nara leaned close to murmur something to them both. Meng Shu, who had returned, along with the dozens of others, whose final lantern had been swallowed by the war, to complete what everyone now simply called the 9th lantern, watched from the long table below. He had told no one about Bolin's voice. The doors of the hall opened, and Yun Lai walked in as though she had merely stepped out for a moment, instead of having been gone for 6 months. She wore a traveling coat the color of dusk, silver sandals, and earrings shaped like tiny hourglasses. A battered trunk floated behind her. Something inside it sneezed.
Good morning,
she said to the room. The murmuring stopped. Elder Fen closed her eyes briefly.
Miss Yun Lai, how did you come through the gate?
The gate was open.
Yun Lai considered this.
After I opened it,
And why, precisely, have you returned?
because of the bell,
And where, might I ask, were you before that?
Elder Fen said.
the southern marshes. I was counting fish that don't exist.
Yun Lai tilted her head.
There are fewer of them than people think. That's rather the point of counting.
Master Ip nearly vanished behind his ledger. Yun Lai drifted over to Meng Shu and sat beside him. She helped herself to a bun.
You heard it from the coast?
Meng Shu asked.
No, I heard it in a dream 3 nights ago. Mother was standing on a bridge, calling to me. There was a bell beneath the water.
Yun Lai spread bean paste to the very edges of her bun.
When I woke, every mirror in the house was humming.
Meng Shu stared at her. Yun Lai took a bite.
Did someone call to you too?
He glanced toward the high table. Elder Fen was watching them.
Bolin.
Meng Shu said quietly. Yun Lai's expression did not change, but her hand found his beneath the table and squeezed once.
Then we should find the bell,
she said. The first clue was painted onto a wall that had not existed the day before. It appeared behind a hanging scroll on the 7th terrace, a narrow archway filled with black stone. Old seal script ran around its edge in faded gold ink. Elder Fen read it aloud.
For those who leave without farewell, let the mountain keep one final word.
Her voice carried down the corridor. Master Ip stood on a stack of ledgers, peering at the stone through a jeweler's glass.
Very old seal work. Older than the academy above it, I should think. This archway has been shut inside the walls for a very long time.
Why open now?
Meng Shu asked. Elder Fen's mouth tightened.
During the rebuilding, stones from several ruined passages were reused without proper record. It seems something has been put back together that ought to have stayed apart.
Yun Lai pressed her ear to the wall.
There are people whispering on the other side.
Everyone fell silent. At first, Meng Shu heard only the distant creak of scaffold ropes. Then came a murmur like wind through dry reeds. Hundreds of voices overlapped behind the stone. Young and old, laughing and weeping, calling names, beginning sentences they never finished. One rose above the others.
Fen.
Elder Fen went white. The voice was warm, unhurried, unmistakable.
You have done beautifully.
Elder Fen stepped toward the archway. Master Ip caught her sleeve.
Elder.
She stopped with one hand raised. The whisper came again, gentler now.
Come closer.
Elder Fen's fingers curled into a fist.
That is not Grandmaster Wei,
she said. The whispering ceased. Somewhere far below, the bell gave a single furious note. A crack split the center stone of the archway. Cold air breathed through it, carrying the smell of rain and old ash. Then the black stones folded inward, revealing a staircase descending into the dark. They went down at dusk. Elder Fen forbade it at first. Then every painted ancestor scroll on the 7th terrace began speaking in the voices of dead relatives, and 3 apprentices were found sleepwalking toward the archway. By evening, even the ink-stained scholar was weeping for a sister who had died before he learned to write his own name. The elder ordered the corridor sealed. The mountain ignored her. Every locked door opened by itself. So Elder Fen led the way, with Master Ip close behind, then Meng Shu and Yun Lai. Elder Nara stayed above to guard the entrance. The staircase spiraled far beneath the lower terraces. Their brushlights slid over walls carved with names. Some Meng Shu recognized from old memorial tablets. Others had been worn smooth by centuries. Twice he tried to count the steps, and twice he lost the number somewhere in the dark, as though the mountain preferred not to be measured. As they descended, the air filled with small sounds, a mother singing, a soldier praying, a child laughing on a summer afternoon. Meng Shu heard his grandmother calling him in for supper. He heard his father say a word that might have been, "Son." He heard his mother humming beside a sickbed. He walked faster. Yun Lai caught his sleeve.
The voices are choosing what we want,
she said.
What if they aren't?
Then they will forgive us for being careful.
The staircase ended in a round chamber. An iron bell hung at its center, no larger than a rice cauldron, green with age, suspended over a still black pool like a sheet of unused ink. Silver threads stretched from the bell into the walls. Thousands of them, each trembling with a different voice. Around the pool stood 4 stone guardians. A dragon, a tiger, a firebird, a tortoise. Their heads were bowed toward the water. Master IP whispered.
Morning chamber.
Words rose across the surface of the pool, as if brushed there by an invisible hand. Speak the name. Hear the farewell. Meng Shu's mouth went dry. From the bell came a soft, familiar laugh.
Go on,
said Bolin's voice.
You wanted to say goodbye.
Meng Shu stepped toward the water before he realized he had moved. In its dark surface he saw the Hall of Lanterns on the morning after the fracture. Broken screens. dust drifting in the light. Bodies laid in rows, and Bolin, 16 years old, small enough that Meng Shu had mistaken him for a younger boy when he found him in the courtyard. His memory glass lay cracked beside him. Meng Shu had carried him inside. He had never told anyone how light Bolin had felt in his arms and how wrong that lightness was.
Say my name.
The voice urged. Meng Shu knelt beside the pool.
Bolin.
The bell rang. The chamber vanished. Meng Shu stood on the academy grounds during the fracture, surrounded by smoke. Bolin was alive before him, grinning, the memory glass swinging from its cord.
I knew you'd come back.
Bolin said. Meng Shu could not speak.
You were brilliant out there, Shu. Everyone says so.
This was what Meng Shu had imagined Bolin might say. What he had wanted him to say. Bolin held out his hand.
Come with me. There's time to talk now.
Behind him, the smoke opened onto a bright summer field. Meng Shu took one step. Then he noticed the memory glass. Its cord was whole. Meng Shu remembered finding it snapped in two. This was not a memory. It was a wish wearing Bolin's face. Meng Shu looked into the boy's bright, waiting eyes.
You aren't him.
Bolin's smile widened too far. The summer field went dark. Meng Shu pressed his brush to his palm.
A light.
Light burst outward. The vision shattered like a dropped mirror. He was back in the chamber, lying at the pool's edge. A silver thread had wound around his wrist. Yun Lai was cutting it free with a seal, while Master Ip struggled beneath a net of glowing strands, a small voice within it calling him.
Ippy.
In the clipped, impatient tones of Sai, a sworn brother lost in the uprising 2 decades before the fracture had ever begun. Elder Fen stood motionless, staring into the water.
Elder!
Meng Shu shouted. She did not answer. In the pool, Grandmaster Wei waited in the old headmaster's study. An ember crane sang softly on a perch behind him.
Only a moment, Fen,
he said. The bell began to swing. With every movement, more voices poured from the walls. A boy laughing, who had died at the eastern gate. A woman calling for a brother lost in the retreat. A soldier saying a general's name like a prayer. A girl asking her father not to weep. They were perfect voices, speaking perfect words. And every word was a hook. Yun Lai stood at the center of the storm, her hair flying around her face. Tears streamed down her cheeks.
Mother is here,
she said. Meng Shu followed her gaze. A woman with long, dark hair stood beyond the bell. She held out both arms.
My little bird,
she whispered. Yun Lai swayed toward her. Meng Shu seized her hand.
Yun Lai, it isn't real.
I know,
Her voice broke.
but it sounds real.
The bell swung higher. Cracks raced across the stone guardians. The water rose from the pool in long black ribbons, each filled with reaching faces. One curled cold around Meng Shu's ankle and pulled, patient as a tide, before he wrenched free. Somewhere beneath the net, Master Ip found his own true words.
You were reckless, Sai, and it cost us both.
He said, quite steadily.
I have missed you regardless, every day since.
The threads binding him loosened. Not broken, only slackened. For that grief was old and long since finished, and the bell could not hold what a man had already made peace with. Master Ip rolled clear, raised his brush, and hurled a burning seal at the bell. The seal struck and vanished into the iron.
It feeds on unfinished grief,
he cried.
Every attack only gives it another loss to echo.
Then how do we stop it?
Meng Shu shouted. Yun Lai stared at the words shining on the pool. Speak the name. Hear the farewell.
It promises the farewell we wanted,
she said.
Perhaps we must give it the truth instead.
She stepped toward the image of her mother.
Suyin,
Yun Lai said. The bell boomed. The woman opened her arms wider.
come to me.
Yun Lai's knees trembled, but she remained where she was.
my mother was brilliant,
She said.
She built things no one else could build. She also lost every pair of shoes she owned, and she hummed the wrong tune to every festival song.
The woman's smile flickered.
I was there when her seal went wrong.
Yun Lai continued.
For years I wished her last words had been wise and lovely. They weren't. She said, oh, bother the thing.
The false Suyin lowered her arms. Yun Lai laughed through her tears.
That's how I know you aren't her. Mother would never call me her little bird. She thought birds were overrated for creatures that couldn't do arithmetic.
The image dissolved. A silver thread tore free of the wall and floated into Yun Lai's hands. It became a tiny point of golden light, warm as a candle flame. Yun Lai kissed it and opened her fingers. The light flew upward through the ceiling. The bell faltered. Meng Shu understood. He faced Bo Lin. The false boy waited beside the pool, no longer smiling.
Bo Lin,
Meng Shu said.
you were brave. You were also unbearable. You caught moments at the worst possible times, and you never once stopped asking questions.
A sound almost like laughter moved through the chamber. Meng Shu's throat tightened.
I found you after the fracture. I carried you back myself. And I am sorry.
The bell swung toward him.
I am sorry I couldn't save you.
Meng Shu said.
But I will not pretend you died so that I could become someone braver. You had your own story. You mattered before I ever raised a brush in anger.
Bo Lin's false shape broke apart. For one instant, Meng Shu saw something else. Not a ghost, not a borrowed memory, but a flash of Bo Lin as he had truly been. Dust on his nose, memory glass raised, delighted by the whole ordinary world. Then a golden light rose from the pool and rested against Meng Shu's chest. The silver thread fell from his wrist. Across the chamber, Elder Fen still stood before Grandmaster Wei.
Fen,
The image said,
you have done beautifully.
her face was wet with tears.
Grandmaster Wei?
She said. The chamber shook.
You were the finest headmaster this mountain ever knew. You were maddening, secretive, careless with other people's trust, and far too fond of leaving instructions until after they would have done any good.
The false Wei blinked.
I did not need you to tell me I could lead this academy.
Elder Fen said. Her voice grew stronger.
I needed you to remain and help rebuild it. You could not. So I will do it without your permission.
She lifted her chin.
Farewell, old man.
Wei's image smiled. Not the gentle, knowing smile the bell had borrowed, but a crooked, startled one. Then he vanished. The bell split from crown to rim. Every silver thread snapped at once. The 4 stone guardians lifted their bowed heads at last. Dragon, tiger, firebird, and tortoise turning toward the light together, as though the vigil they had kept for centuries were finally quietly finished. The sound that followed was not an explosion. It was a sigh. Thousands of golden lights rose from the walls. They filled the chamber, drifted through one another, and circled the 4 companions like stars. In their glow, the carved names shone clearly for the first time in centuries. Some belonged to brushwrights and scholars. Some to porters, healers, mountain folk, and travelers who had never studied a seal in their lives. Some had no family names. Some had no names at all. The lights streamed up the staircase. As the last one passed, Meng Shu heard no words. Only the soft click of a memory glass. Then the iron bell crumbled into rust. They emerged just before sunrise. Elder Nara was waiting beside the archway with half the staff, a scattering of ghosts, and a crowd of apprentices in their sleeping robes. When Elder Fen stepped onto the landing, everyone began talking at once. She raised one hand. Silence fell. Behind her, the black archway had changed. Its stones were pale now, and the gold seal script was gone. In its place were 4 simple words. Their names remain with us. Elder Fen looked at the gathered apprentices.
There will be no lessons today,
She announced. For half a heartbeat, nobody reacted. The academy had endured a war, a haunted bell, and a night of stolen voices, but the cancellation of lessons was too astonishing to understand. Then the cheering began. Elder Fen waited until it subsided.
Instead,
She continued.
we will finish the memorial garden.
The cheering grew quieter, but it did not disappear. All that day, the academy worked beside the lake below the terraces. The groundskeepers carried stones the size of doors. Master Ip charmed pathways through the grass. Apprentices planted white chrysanthemums, mountain sage, and long rows of moon orchids carried down from the herbery. They carved no statues of heroes. They made no list of victories. They wrote names. Every name they knew. In the afternoon, Elder Nara found Meng Shu kneeling in the dirt, and finally told him what she had meant on the night the bell rang. Her own grandmother had heard it once, she said, when Nara herself was a girl. The year, an unmarked grave on the far side of the mountain, was at last given a name.
It only ever wakes for grief that has nowhere left to go,
Elder Nara said, brushing soil from her knees.
I didn't think I would live to hear it a second time. I'm glad in the end that we had somewhere to put it.
Near sunset, Meng Shu knelt in the soil and planted the final moon orchid. Yun Lai sat beside him, her silver sandals muddy, turning a cracked memory glass lens she had found near the ruined courtyard.
Do you think it was really them at the end?
Meng Shu asked. Yun Lai held the glass up to the evening light.
I think memories are real,
She said.
not alive, not ghosts, but real the way a song is real, even after it's finished playing.
Meng Shu pressed the earth around the plant.
I wanted Bolin to forgive me.
For surviving?
He nodded. Yun Lai lowered the lens.
The dead can't give us permission to live, Shu. That would be a very unfair thing to leave them holding.
Across the garden, Elder Fen was arguing with a chrysanthemum bed that refused to grow anywhere but sideways. Elder Nara laughed so loudly that several herons left a nearby pine. Apprentices passed stones hand to hand. For the first time since the fracture, the rebuilding did not feel like hiding the damage. It felt like making room around it. The sun slipped behind the western ridge. One by one, the moon orchids opened. Their pale blossoms caught the dusk and gave it back as silver light. That light spread from flower to flower, along every path and around every name, until the whole garden seemed filled with quiet stars. From the academy came the ordinary sound of the supper gong. Meng Shu flinched. Yun Lai smiled and offered him her hand.
That one means dumplings.
Together, they walked back up toward Nine Lantern Academy. Behind them, the memorial garden shone beside the dark water. The flowers moved in the evening wind, with a sound like pages turning. Not the end of a story, but the place where the telling could begin again.